Assalamu alaikum dear viewers, I am Tayyab Ali. Welcome to my channel Chess Essentials. Our today's video topic is calculation. Many chess players when sit on the board they start calculating the moves madly. But actually we have to first find a plan and then start calculating the candidate moves. And candidate moves are the moves which lead to our dream position. So in this way when we find a plan our calculation becomes short because we don't have to calculate all the variations. We have to calculate some specific variations which lead to our dream position. Let's see a diagram. Let's see in this diagram. In this position, no good international player would hesitate to play queen x b8. After rook x b8, rook to the c1, followed by rook to the c7. If any other move, black play rook to the c7 comes. And you can see that there is a clear advantage for white due to the dominant placement of his rook on the only open file. To calculate any other variation at all would be complete waste of time. So here we illustrate the concept of Richard Reti, who said that he calculate only one move. And in this diagram we have seen that we don't have to calculate much. We calculate only queen x b8 and rook x b8 and rook to the c1 followed by rook to the c7. Let's see another diagram. In this diagram, white enjoys a clear advantage in space on the queen side and control of the open c file. He would like to put more pressure on the weakened pawns on the b6 and a4. But black's light squared bishop defends a4 and keeps the white rook out of c6. It would not take a master more than a nanosecond to see and play the obvious bishop to b5. Because after trading the light square bishop, white will be very happy. Let's see if black trade the his light square bishop and after queen captures b5. And after queen captures b5 you can see that there are many weaknesses in the black position. Weakness on a4, b6 and d6. All these three pawns are weak and white can take one of these pawns or all these pawns. So once again no calculation is needed or necessary here. Let's see another diagram. Let's see in this diagram both these sides are trying to checkmate each other. White wants to capture pawn on the a6. After that mate on a8 or b7 is unstoppable. But he should look first the consequences of black checks. As it turns out black gets some mako checks and then has to resign. So white captures the pawn on the a6. Black queen gives check to white king on h1 but king moves to f2 and black queen captures the pawn on g2 with check and then king captures the knight on e3. Black bishop gives check to white on g5 and after that white king move to d3 and here black resign because there are no more further checks and mate is unstoppable on a8 or b7. So you can see that in both the positional and tactical situation you must use your thinking technique to find the proper plan. You only bother calculating once the correct plan is clear. In this diagram you can see that black is a pawn down and black rook on c8 is attacked by white light square bishop. So many players may think that black is in trouble, but actually when we consider the factors that black has two bishops and black king is much safer and black has open files or lines which lead directly to the white king. So we get a completely different picture. Here's black's rook is under attack, so black can move the rook to the c5. Now white's knight is under attack by the black bishop and black rook, so white must defend it. White has several options to defend it. First of all we should calculate the options of white which white will use to defend the knight. There are many different options from which white can defend the knight. The first option can be of c4 which was played in the actual game, and the second option can be of protecting the knight by the queen by playing queen to the e4, and the third option can be that protecting the knight by playing knight to the c3, and the fourth option can be of that protecting the white knight by playing knight to b4, and the fifth option of white can be that protecting the knight by placing the bishop to the b7, and the sixth option can be that capturing the black rook by the queen, and the seventh option can be that by capturing the pawn on the e7 with the check. So we should consider all these factors before playing the move rook to c5. so that we can justify that our move is correct or wrong. But we actually can't just play the move rook to the c5. First we should actually calculate the defensive ideas by the white. If white play the move c4 to protect the knight, then after bishop captures the knight, rook captures the bishop, and rook captures the rook, and pawn captures the rook, and then black can play queen to the a5. And now white have to protect both the pawns on a7 or d5. So white can play bishop to the c4, but then white bishop is pinned by the rook, and if white prevent the bishop by the queen, then his pawn on a7 will hang, and white is in serious trouble here. Let's say white defend the knight by playing queen to the e4, but this runs into bishop to f5, and so as you can see that when queen is removed from the square of e4, then black bishop and rook are both attacking on the pawn c7. So this is a very difficult situation. And now suppose that white can prevent the knight by playing knight to the c3, and this will be run into queen to the a5, and after that this will give black a very attacking choice here, because white's light square bishop is under attack, and if white want to defend his light square bishop, let's suppose white play the move bishop to d3, then here actually black can even sacrifice the rook here and capture the pawn. Let's say here if white play the move knight to b4 to protect the knight, then queen moves to b6 and again attack the knight, then white can play a3 to protect his knight, and then black rook enters and goes to b8. Here's black pieces are much more active and they are all aiming at the white king, so white is in trouble here. Let's say white can play the move queen captures rook, then after d captures c5 and knight f6 check, and e captures f6, rook captures d8 and rook captures d8, and after that black is a piece up and black is winning here. Let's see white can play the move knight captures e7, then queen captures the knight and e captures d6, and here white can even sacrifice the rook captures c2. After king captures c2, then bishop to the f5 check, king moves to d2 and queen captures d6 check, comes to d3 and queen to the b4 check, king moves to e2 and here bishop g5 check, king moves to the f2 and then bishop to the d4, pinning the white queen. So black is completely winning in this type of situation. As in the actual game, white play the move c4 to protect his knight, and then black easily win from the white in this game. So as you can see that actually a player has to see many moves ahead to justify his move. To justify that if his move is right or wrong, he should have to see many moves ahead. So a chess player should look deeply into the position. So this is all about calculation part 1. Inshallah we will meet again in our next video, which will be calculation part 2.